taking notes from nobody.
Your superstars have off games.
Follow us on social media at Celtics Talk Weekly.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Justin Lowe. This is Fran. We're going to be talking about the Boston Celtics Summer League. Celtics are back in action tomorrow night in Las Vegas for the 2K24 NBA Summer League. Fran, how are you? Welcome to the show. You're a new member here at Celtics Talk Weekly. How you doing? How you feeling? Celtics Hoops is back tomorrow.
I'm doing all right. I'm very excited. It's Franco, so just wanted to get that cleared up. But we're doing really well. The roster's looking really good so far. Had to watch Marcus Smart leave today and hold up a Grizzlies jersey, but that's not the point today. We're talking Summer League basketball.
We are talking Summer League hoops. First, let's get that out of the way, though. Marcus Smart, Grizzlies jersey, a little weird, little kind of like officially official. Where did that sit with you? How did you feel?
We saw the jersey swaps, and it's not going to hit completely until we're seeing that game where he is lined up against Derek White or Malcolm Brogdon,
right,
and he's in the Garden, and we have the tribute video rolling.
Yeah, 100%. I think just hearing Smart talk about new opportunities, all that different stuff, and how we didn't accomplish a championship here in Boston, that's just unsettling to me. It still hasn't settled in. I think once we hit the court for real in October, that's when it'll settle in. When it comes to Boston, thankfully, he only comes once a year, because if we had to see Marcus Smart 4 times a year, 2 times on the road, 2 times at home, that would have been really tough. But let's move on. Some positive news. The Celtics are back tomorrow, right? It's Summer League.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Summer League. Like, some people don't have an interest in Summer League. I think for Celtic Nation, we should have an interest for Summer League, because we have actually quite a few, not just a couple, of really, really good players on this team. Let's take a look at the key players to watch. We think that are the key players to watch. Jordan Walsh, who just signed a 4-year deal, $7.6 million deal with the Boston Celtics. He was the 38th pick in the NBA draft for the Celtics. He's 19 years old, 6'7", with a 7'2" wingspan from Arkansas. He was a freshman. J.D. Davison, we know the deal with him. He performed so well in the Summer League last year for the Boston Celtics. He earned his way onto a 2-way contract. He wants to get on that roster spot now with no Marcus Smart. He has an opportunity for these point guards to arise. And help me, Franco, help me pronounce this.
Delano Banton.
Delano Banton. Boom. He's a free agent that just signed with the Boston Celtics. We signed him to a 2-year deal, so he will be joining the Celtics in the Summer League as well as the regular season. So, we talk about, there's so many key guys. There's so many guys looking to create opportunities for themselves. But when we look at these 3 guys, they stand out, right? They have the chance to not only be in the NBA next year, but obviously potentially pieces in the Celtics rotation.
100%. And the thing is, the thing that's going to make these guys so much better is how well depth this roster is and how much veteran status there is in this roster. People who have played in NBA games, people who have gotten significant minutes in NBA games. People were chanting to bring back Udoka before when the season ended, and guess what? What Grossbeck did, and he brought back Udoka Uzubuki.
Yeah, from the Utah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a good segue into this, because Celtics, okay, like the center position, we got Kristaps Porzingis. You kind of slot him at the 4. Robert Williams isn't always healthy. Al Horford isn't always healthy. He's actually going to be another year older, but come playoff time, he's going to be 38 years old, believe it or not. And then also Mfiondu Kabengele is now on the Atlanta Hawks. So there's a real opportunity here for Udoka to slide in and get a spot, a potential 2-way deal. He's 6'10" out of Utah. He's a center. I think he's going to be also a guy to watch. Remember last year, a similar situation with Mfiondu Kabengele. came in, didn't really know what to expect from this guy. He was on the Clippers, he was on the Cavs, like he had some NBA experience. He came in, he shined, and he earned a two-way spot. Boston has both two-way spots available. So, Franco, this could be a huge opportunity for him as well.
Definitely. It's going to be a battle for everyone on that roster is going to have a chance to be on an NBA roster next season, whether it's on the Boston Celtics or elsewhere. You look at players like Justin Champagnie. You look at players like Jay Scrubb, players who've been starters in the G League, who have excelled elsewhere. And they've also brought in a couple of younger guys, Sam Greisel from Nebraska, and what was the other kid's name?
Justin Bean.
Vincent Valerio Bodon.
Yeah, he's good.
Justin Bean, of course. He's doing really well. He was from Memphis, I believe. He's kind of a Sam Hauser type player, but more athletic. He was actually a Mormon before he got into basketball. That's one thing I remember reading about him, which was his big headline. So you'll probably be seeing a lot about that when he blows 20-point games.
I'm really excited for Justin Bean. I actually had a conversation with Justin Bean maybe about let me see when it was actually, because I have been a solid fan of him. I've been following him. Like you said, he was out in Memphis with the Hustle. He played for the Clippers Summer League as well. But I just asked him what it was like to be a part of the Celtics organization, even if it's just for Summer League. Just basically told me he appreciates the support. Any opportunity to be a part of an NBA organization is something I do not take lightly. Whether it's Summer League, training camp, preseason, or playoffs, I tried to show how much I want to be here. Getting to see this historic tradition in Boston basketball up close is something that I truly will never forget. So, like, these are opportunities for guys, especially like Justin, not just to get into potentially the Celtics roster, but as you mentioned earlier in the show, these guys are getting watched from scouts and from other teams around the league, not just within the Celtics organization. So for a guy like Justin Bean, he reminds me so much of I would say a more athletic Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan was on the Celtics last year. Celtics signed him to a two-way deal 2 years ago, played with the Celtics Summer League last year. Guy is just so special. He can spot up, shoot. He can create his own shot. He's just a fast player. Justin Bean, I feel like, is just a level above him in terms of that athleticism, his explosiveness. He's going to be a really fun guy to watch as well. And you match him with a guy like Sam Hauser on the bench. Problem with Justin Bean is that consistency in three-point shooting isn't really there. But I mean, to be fair, that's why you play in Summer League. That's why you do play in the G League. No disrespect added, but that to build consistency. So it's going to be really exciting to see, specifically in my eyes, Justin Bean. I'm looking at him.
Yeah, I think he'll be coming off the bench with that rotation, and they're going to be throwing out a lot of rotations because there's a lot of versatility on this team. A lot of players that can play from the 1 to 5. One of our key players we're watching, Delano Banton. He was the backup point guard, took over from Malachi Flynn last year, even though he went into a little bit of a slump, and came back and put in good minutes when the Raptors were an average team and was able to play 1 through 4 for them. Kind of a Ben Simmons type of build with a little bit more of a jump shot kind of.
I'm really excited to see him as well because he's a guy that we brought in and he's guaranteed to be on the roster. He signed that 2-year deal. I'm just really excited to see new faces, and I like to see new faces right away. So for him to come in and be able to play in the Summer League, and he's a younger player, not that much experience, but he's also a guy who you can use in the regular season at the end of the bench. O'Shea Brissett, who's not playing in the Summer League, but he's also a newly acquired piece. And Rob and I were talking about this yesterday on the podcast, Franco, was that like Boston doesn't need, not necessarily just for Summer League, but just in general, Boston doesn't need these big time splashes, right? Like these Damian Lillards, these you know what I mean, Karl Anthony Towns and stuff. Like we have Porzingis, we have Jaylen Brown, we have Jason Tatum. We know what we can get out of Robert Williams and Malcolm Brogdon when they're both healthy. it's going to be guys like O'Shea Brissett that chip in. It's going to be guys like Banton who chip in. Who knows? Maybe Walsh and Davison and Pritchard get their moments to shine as well. So like that's going to be really important. And I brought up I brought up and I kind of compared kind of the 08 team. Where do you think 15 years ago, when two kids our age, if they were even doing podcasts back then, we're talking about these little names that they kind of brought in, like the Tony, or not the Tony Allen, but like the Eddie Houses, the Leon Poes, the James Posies, the Brian Scalabrinis. They weren't really talking about that. Who are they talking about? They were talking about the Pierce, the Garnett, the Rondo, the Ray Allen. Just like now, how we're talking about the KGs. We're talking about the JTs, the JBs, the Porzingises. We got to focus on these little pieces because each puzzle has its own pieces, and you need to fill those pieces. And not all the pieces are going to be big, right? That's kind of what I'm alluding to. Like this Banton kid can seriously contribute to this roster. Come playoff time, I don't know, but you have to kind of ride the course out and see where it takes you. So I'm really excited. I'm glad you brought that name up because I'm really excited we got him. He's just a gritty player. He fits the Celtics style very, very well.
And one of the comments was Justin Champagny. That was one of the people I was thinking of putting down as a key player. I was going to do 5, but I just didn't have the time to fill him in. But we got to see him last year. He might come into fruition, and he's on contract to be on the roster next year already. So I'm excited to see him. He's going to be playing the 3 spot. The wings are going to be very exciting, and they have a couple of kids. One of the kids I watched a lot of was Valerio Bodon.
Okay.
Kind of reminds me of Danilo Gallinari type of player. He is very athletic and puts his back to the hoop a lot to score, will back down, and a very big for us. And who knows, he could battle. Every single person could make their case to make the roster on this Summer League team.
I think this is like, compared to years recent, maybe other than, do you remember that year we played the Kings in the championship and we had guys like Pritchard, Neesmith, and then we had, who was it? It was Carson Edwards, Romeo Langford, Tremont Ward. It was like their last shot, like, like all or nothing, like to make the roster. That was the last time Summer League felt like important, right? Like last year, we kind of knew Sam Hauser was going to make the roster. He was just looking too good. It was just the standouts that Mifundu Kabengele and J.D. Davison both earned their position. So like this year, I feel like with the roster spots open that we have, as well as the two-way spots that we have, a lot can happen out of this Summer League. That's why I think it's important to keep your eye on it. But I kind of want to talk about, and I'm really excited to talk about him, Jordan Walsh. Franco, he can play the 2, he can play the 3, maybe even play a little small ball, go the 4, but he's not that small. 6'7", 205 pounds at 19 years old with a 7'2" wingspan. I mean, absolute freak. He's very explosive. He's, as you mentioned, he's unstoppable in the transition. Only downside, I guess, is his inconsistent shooting. That's something that you can work on. That's something you can fix. He only played 1 year at Arkansas. He was a freshman, again, 19 years old, so he's younger. Some people might allude to saying, "Oh, I wish we got a vet out of the draft," meaning, somebody with 3 or 4 years of college experience, or in the G League or whatever. But Celtics took the shot at Walsh. Kind of fit the description very well for the Celtics. Very gritty, very tough, can defend, lengthy. Hey, who knows? You know what I said to Rob, Franco? I said to Rob, I was like, this draft pick in Walsh could be what we wish Aaron Neesmith was, right? Like coming into the draft with Neesmith he was the draft's best shooter, 52% from 3, coming off an ankle injury though. We knew he could shoot the 3. But when he came into the league, it was his inconsistent shooting that hurt him, and his defense that we didn't really know about. We weren't too fond of his defense. His defense took over. This time with Walsh, it's kind of the opposite. It's like flip-flop. Walsh's offense is shaky, but his defense is there. So I feel like they're both in similar situations, but different players. But I think Walsh could be what we wish Neesmith turned out to be. This is a very good. Some are saying the steal of the draft.
Yeah, a couple of comparisons I saw for him was a Jay Crowder type player, but I think he's a lot more athletic, and he might be one of those players that we could see in a dunk contest. A lot of his driving, and I watched him on offense, it reminded me of Magic Aaron Gordon. He's shorter, a smaller power forward, small forward, can play him up to the guard. Not a consistent shot just yet, but he has hot streaks, so he's shown that he can get that shot going if he needs to. He can, and he's also a player that takes a step in, and he's a better mid-range shooter than a three-point shooter. And I have absolutely no problem with a player that goes up to the top of the key and takes 16-foot shots and makes them.
100%. And clearly there's belief in this player at Jordan Walsh. And it all kind of came back to draft night, where the Celtics had the 25th pick in the draft via the Grizzlies trade involving Marcus Smart. Boston pushed it back to the 33rd pick, then the 31st pick, then pushed it back to the 33rd, then the 34th, and then the 38th and 39th picks. Like, it was an all-night thing. Brad Stevens mentioned in an interview later how he had a list of about 10 to 12 players that he kind of had he had the gist for. And Walsh was on that list. And Walsh was on the list at 25. He was on the list at 31. He was on the list at 34. And he was on the list at 38 and 39. He went and he got him. Not only did he get him and not sign him to a two-way contract, which that's the thing in the second round, you don't have to guarantee. That's why he was kind of traded back as well. First-round picks, you got to guarantee a deal. You don't have to guarantee a second-round pick.
Yeah.
So usually you see these roster moves, Franco, being made after Summer League, right? Like, you get a feel for Walsh, right? Like, we didn't sign JD till after Summer League. They get a feel for Walsh in training camp before Summer League, and they sign him to a 4-year deal, $7.6 million. That's what? I don't know how much per year that is, like 1.6 or
around minimum. And what they can do is they can stash him down in Maine for 2 of those years if need be, and have him ready for that senior year of those contracts, as like they're doing with Yam Madar and Johan Belgiran, who we should be covering for Summer League, but for some reason are not. But they did a good way of replacing those, and on the fly that there were 3 players that I was really looking forward to: Madar, Belgiran, and Cavangeli, and I guess we're missing out on all 3. But
yes, no kidding.
But what they have in place right now, I think they can make a solid run in what is called the Summer League, just because of how well knit they are, and a few of these players have prior experience playing with each other. Bandon Champagny played 2 years together for the Raptors before they came over to Boston. So they're going to be able to have a good connection, and I feel like Davison was able to connect with all those other players who will be on the roster and Summer League team through the G League, because a lot of the G League team from last year is on the Summer League roster this year.
Yeah, there's plenty of guys from the G League main roster. Reggie, I don't even know how to say his name. Kissin. He's another guy you gotta watch out for. 7-foot center, there's
shooter can
come out of nowhere.
Yeah, he can make his shots. I watched his highlights and looked up his stats. Can hit 3-point shots, stretch the floor. What I noticed, and the other big man they got was Oleg Balcerowski.
Yes, he's out of Spain. He plays Euro ball or
So
something like that.
you have 2 7-footers who can spot up, shoot, and get into the paint and score. It kind of seems like they did a kind of fake model of the Celtics roster with the Summer League team. Like, kind of gave esque players so they can get used to, like, when JD Davison goes in and plays with the Kristaps when he develops more. So I don't know. I feel like they use the same formula to build their Summer League roster that they did to build their regular roster going into next year.
So a name, and we're going to continue to talk about this roster that presents itself for the Celtics for their Las Vegas Summer League, which kicks off tomorrow afternoon at 3:00 p.m. on NBA TV. Michael Mulder, he played for the Sky Force, which is Miami Heat's G League team. He's played a couple of seasons in Golden State, being that third-string point guard behind Steph Curry. Now, this guy shot 40, I believe. I'm just running the numbers off the top of my head. I believe it was 42% from three. This guy can shoot the ball. He's 6'3", a little undersized guard, but he's another guy who may be competing with a guy like JD Davison for that two-way spot or even a roster spot. So, it's going to be fun to see these guys compete against each other, right? Because we're so, I guess, starstruck on the name Champagny and Davison and Walsh and like guys like that. But like, it's going to be these guys who we wouldn't really think to focus on that might make the difference, not only for the Summer League team, but who knows? Again,
in the regular season, who's getting 15 minutes per game when someone goes down?
I know. Definitely.
And Michael Mulder, I remember him when we were all stuck in our houses watching the bubble.
Yep.
He was big during the bubble run for the Golden State Warriors. He stepped up, and he was one of those one of the meme players that is like Golden State just AI generates undrafted players that just come in and ball out. And yeah, I'm excited to see him. He can play the 1 and 2, and they have a very drawn out and spread out depth chart. And what they can do is they can play these players. Kamar Baldwin, a big player from Maine last year. He had performances last year on Maine, I remember, above 25 points and triple doubles, I think I saw once with him in Maine.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, like here's the thing with this Celtics team is I'm not hyping them up to be some, super team in the Summer League, but like the Celtics have a squad this Summer League, and I'm really intrigued to see how that is on the court because I feel like the Celtics have had some really good Summer League teams in recent years. And, you kind of have to – I feel like you just have to watch the Summer League. Like, I'm very excited and I'm very amped for it, and we can talk about it all we want. But I'm really excited to see these players in action, and I'm excited to see how they feed off of each other. I'm also really excited, and I'm going to bring up his name again, just Jordan Walsh. Like, the hype around this guy has been, for the 38th pick, has been spectacular. And I don't know if it's just because – we lost Marcus Smart, we lost Grant Williams, so like he has a great opportunity. He kind of fit with them really well with the grittiness and toughness and the defense. Like I get all that, but like I want to see him play on the court, and I just want to see him ball. Like we see these little practice clips and content on the Celtics media page, but we haven't seen everything yet. So I'm really excited to see what we can of Jordan Walsh, but. When you look at this Celtics team tomorrow night going against the Miami Heat, which we will have coverage of post-game live, I want to ask you, who on the Miami Heat stands out to you that we'll be seeing in action tomorrow afternoon?
One of the more hyped up players and was tied to the Celtics a lot before the draft was Jamie Yaquez. I believe his name is, a small forward post player. He's going to be a big contributor on the Miami Heat or Trailblazers, whatever happens with Dame.
Right.
And they also have the Nikola Jovic, who was taken last year, small forward. We might be seeing a lot of him next year with whatever happens with the Dame trade if they get rid of Duncan Robinson or Tyler Hero.
Right.
He'll be stepping right into that role for them. And another name they added was Caleb Daniels. He was on the Charlotte Hornets last year, made a couple of appearances on the Heat last year. So they have a few players to look forward to. And it's also the players you don't know from the Miami Heat. Like, we heard about the entire Eastern Conference Finals. Gabe Vincent, the Max Strus, the players who went undrafted.
Right.
People need to stop that narrative. These are real NBA basketball players that have the talent, but just have not gotten the looks that they have looked for or the opportunity. All it takes is that one game for any of these players to become the headline on ESPN, to get their name out on NBA.com and get that growth and then become that storyline for next year. And it happens every year, and people just underrate the Summer League and how important it is, but not even just for our own players, but just for the whole NBA. A lot of young talent, a lot of rookies, but it's a very exciting time.
Where do you, if you're Miami and you're going through this whole Damian Lillard situation, you lost Max Strus, you lost Gabe Vincent, they lost Cody Zeller too, I believe. They did gain Thomas Bryant, but they lost Cody Zeller. So they lose these pretty valuable pieces off the bench. And I know we're talking about Summer League here, but I want to get your thoughts on this whole Dame thing real quick, because these pieces that we're talking about that we'll see tomorrow in Miami might not really play for Miami if a Damian Lillard trade happens. We see the classic package of Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero along with draft picks. But who knows? It might take a Jovic. It might take a what's his name? Yaquet. It might take one of those guys to complete a deal like that. Where do you stand if you're Miami right now, losing a lot of depth? You have a lot of young talent coming in this Summer League right now, but a superstar like Damian Lillard is right there at your fingertips.
So what I have drawn up, I did my own little Miami draw play. What I am trying to do is get rid of as much top money on my roster as possible. And unfortunately, those players are not up to the standard that Trailblazers are looking to get back. So one of the teams that I looked into and thought would be a great add to the trade was the Toronto Raptors, and sending Pascal Siakam over to the Trailblazers, and they get Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson in that trade. So it would work out pretty fairly for each team with picks added, of course, but if you're Miami, you're trying to keep as much of those minimum contracts as possible, but unfortunately all their money is in non-talented players that no one sees the value in.
Do you do this if you're Miami? Like, I was talking to Rob, like, I get it. If you're able to keep Bam and Jimmy and Dame together, that's cool. But are you willing to give up almost all your depth now for Damian Lillard, because you had to lose Strus, you lost Strus, you lost Vincent, you lost Zeller. You're gonna lose Hero and Robinson if a deal like this goes down. Maybe even a Kyle Lowry. You lose a lot to get one guy. And what if it doesn't work out? I get these are all what ifs, but Franco, what if?
Well, my question to answer your question is, where do they go from here? I mean, they've tried every play in the book except for the super team. They've gone with the underdog narrative for so long, and they've gone over that hump where they're not underdogs anymore. When they go into next season, they are looked at as championship contenders because they were there last year, no matter what happens and what people say. Jimmy Butler in the playoffs will get them to past those round ones, those round twos, and they will beat out those teams that people wouldn't expect them to beat out. But they need that one more piece, so it's almost implicit for them to do it, but it's just finding a way that doesn't shoot them in the foot.
Tomorrow, Game 8 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Technically, we got a little Game 8 action. Don't let us win Game 8. I remember last year in the Summer League, we played the Warriors in the finals, but there's another. So we have 4 games in the Summer League, one of which against the Washington Wizards and another against the New York Knicks, who features Isaiah Roby, Daquan Jeffries, Trevor Keels. But it's the rival, the all-time rival, 2 future players. I get like 2 franchises, future players going at it. Max Christie, Scottie Pippen Jr., and a big pick, Jalen Hood-Schifino out in Los Angeles, the land of the Lakers. Are you excited for this game? I'm excited for. I don't care if it's Summer League. I'm always excited when we get to see 2 rivals duke it out with their young guys, the guys that we don't really get to see in the regular season. They get to play and they get to duke it out for the future.
And what we're also getting to see is these young assistant coaches we just brought in. We are basically starting with a clean slate with people sitting behind Joe Mazzulla, more experienced. Lee, I believe he's stepping up to head coach for spring. Yeah, he's going to do a fantastic job. He was the front runner to take over for the Milwaukee Bucks and overstep Mike Budenholzer.
Yeah.
So people underestimate how important that will be.
When you look at the coaching staff, you even get to see 2 former Celtic players, Sam Cassell, brought in from Philadelphia, as well as Phil Pressey, who will be a player development assistant coach, which you might say, look, Phil Pressey, he wasn't the best player. He had to go overseas, all this and that, didn't last as a Celtic, but
he went overseas. He has experience throughout the league. He's been in those positions that these Summer League players are entering right now. Right. He's going to be able to mentor these players through these tough times. And I forget the name of the coach they brought in from Duke, the assistant coach that's friends with Tatum.
I'll look it up right now.
But they have a whole bunch of young guys around a young team that are now just waiting to get above that hump. Once they get this first championship under their belt, it's all these players are set and looking to build a dynasty from there on out.
Emil Jefferson. I forgot he actually, when you go back to the year after the bubble that we were talking about with Mulder on the Warriors, Jefferson was on the Celtics that year.
Yeah.
He was playing for the Celtics that year. I remember, I believe we got him out of Orlando or Utah, one of the two. But there's another former player that's coming in and he knows his stuff. And then he even helped coach Duke, and he was good friends with Jason Tatum, you mentioned earlier in the episode. All these little things are going to matter come regular season. And it's going to be really good. We've sat here for, just under an hour talking about the roster and the players that we're about to see tomorrow afternoon. But as you mentioned, you brought up a phenomenal point that we have a whole new coaching staff that we're about to witness tomorrow. We have a tremendous amount of talent on the bench here for the Celtics coaching staff. And I don't think we really expected like a crazy offseason for players. I think it's funny. Like I mentioned this on the podcast about a month ago, how usually every offseason we look at what players are we about to sign? What's the roster going to look like? That really wasn't the case this offseason. Like obviously we made some pretty big moves, but it was just like Mazzulla. Like, is he gonna stay? Is he gonna get fired? Like, what are we doing with Mazzulla? We need some help on the coaching staff. We picked out a whole coaching staff roster. Like this was a whole roster change, Franco.
Yeah, it's also like hand selected to Mazzulla's needs. You have Sam Cassell, who's coached in the league, and he's an NBA champion with the Boston Celtics. He put up the banner before us.
Right.
And it's going to really set a tone, and he's going to push those players, and he's going to push Mazzulla to make those changes to his coaching that the adjustments that he didn't make, the timeouts that he missed.
Correct.
Those things are going to be corrected. And Mazzulla is his worst critic in a Boston media. That's a very good compliment to give to a head coach. And especially how young he is, you have players on the roster that are older than your coach, and you can say that he can handle the Boston criticism, and you feel comfortable bringing him in. I just see a great career coming from him, and I see him lasting here for a very long time.
So I think we were very quick to criticize Joe Mazzulla. We started off historic offense. Mazzulla ball was balling throughout the regular season. Then kind of end of the season and playoffs came around, and when the threes weren't hitting, we weren't hitting. We weren't doing. We let our shots dictate our defense, and that's not the team we wanted to be. That's definitely not the team we were under Ime Udoka. But I think what people have to realize is 2 weeks before the season started, Mazzulla got thrown in there. Mazzulla got thrown into the fire. Remember, you just talked about handpicking your staff. Udoka got to handpick his staff. This staff was built for Ime Udoka, right? So when we talk about Mazzulla coming in and being that head guy, he didn't have time to prepare. He was learning just as much as us fans were learning, right? So, we go and we see Mazzulla now in his sophomore year of coaching, and we get to see guys next to his side, Charles Lee, who should be a head coach in this league. Sam Cassell probably also could be a head coach in the league. And then you also have those guys at the end of your bench, or, that second row of your bench. Matt Reynolds is coming back, who's the Celtics video coordinator, who I think he does all the replays. He usually is the one who decides the green light specials, which terrific job last season. Thank God we kept him around.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I remember being in the playoff games. It was kind of hard for him not to hit the button sometimes because of how loud the crowd was watching the replays as he was.
Right.
So he did a good job keeping his cool and being able to make those calls when the time was needed.
Look, we're kind of nearing the end of our time here, but we have some rosters, right? Do you have the rosters on you by any chance, or the past few? Let's reminisce.
I got them on my phone.
Let's reminisce on some memories and kind of talk about summer leagues in the past, because Celtics have had some fun summer leagues. I really enjoyed a lot of the Celtics summer leagues. Just a fun time to see players who don't normally play get to play. See players like Jordan Walsh, who we're about to see tomorrow afternoon, make his NBA debut. It's going to be fun. So
I'm going to just read off the starting lineups, and I have them all the way back to 2013. So we're going 10 years back. So we have Phil Pressey in the starting lineup, Kelly Olynyk, Fab Melo, Courtney Fells, Jason Granger. That was a weaker year, but they get better and better as the time goes, and you start to hear names as this list goes on, and you're like, damn, he was even on our Summer League roster, and wow, that was actually a Summer League roster that we put together. If that was a roster that we had, that could have been on a court
Right.
years like now. The year after was Marcus Smart and James Young. We brought them in, and they worked with Phil Pressey, Kelly Olynyk, Chris Babb was a name that I haven't heard in a while.
Babb was a tremendous three-point shooter. Tremendous three-point shooter. You know, Franco, we used to play in the Orlando Magic Summer League, and that's when I remember, Mark, that was actually Smart's rookie year.
Yeah.
Those are some fun teams, watching Olynyk and Smart. It's crazy looking back at it and seeing, like you said, just seeing guys that,
I was around, what was I? So that was 10 years ago. So I was around 11 years old watching Marcus Smart and them get drafted. And I still remember it so vividly, and watching those summer leagues with Tommy calling them. We kept on going. The next year was the Terry Rozier draft with R.J. Hunter. I was looking forward to him. He was a hyped up player. Marcus Thornton, we drafted him. We never saw him again. And a surprising player was Royce O'Neal.
Okay.
He was on that 15-16 roster. And then this is the year we drafted Jaylen Brown, Ben Bentel, Abdel Nader. Who else? Oh, Gershon Yabusele introduced himself, the Dancing Bear. He walked so Grant Williams could run.
Wait, where do you have these rosters, or are they just the starting five?
I have the rosters. I have
Where's Malcolm Miller on these rosters? What year does he come in?
Malcolm Miller was taken this year that I'm reading. So this was 18, I think.
So
17.
I'm gonna give you a quick story about Malcolm Miller. He Holy Cross, and I went to Holy Cross basketball camp, and in the camps, the players are the counselors, the players are the coaches, and Malcolm Miller was my coach, was my counselor, and I remember he gave me his practice jersey. We got to go see him practice. We got his practice jersey, and then I just remember he went undrafted, and I saw that the Celtics signed him to a training camp deal, so he played the Celtics in the summer league, and in the preseason, I was ecstatic. I was DMing him as a kid, guy was super cool. We still talk to this day. And he eventually moved on, went overseas. He got hurt, needed surgery. But he played with the Toronto Raptors, and he won a ring with the Raptors back in 2019, that Kawhi year. That's why I was looking for Malcolm Miller, because I know for a couple seasons he did play in Boston.
Yeah, a lot of players like that, just like even these smaller players, like 13, these players that were second round picks, people that anyone would have just washed away the season of. Now, like, we're reminiscing 5 years, 6 years later, looking back, and we're like, damn, these players were good and we miss them. And some of them are going on and doing better with their careers and off playing in China. Right. I know Ben Bentel, I still follow. Make me smile. I'm like, good, they're doing well. And it just shows how much this team has changed over the years and how the youth develops.
I know, for sure. What was after Rozier? That was the Jaylen. Who was on Brown's rookie? Was that Brown's rookie team? Was Malcolm Miller?
Malcolm Miller was that. Jordan Mickey.
Okay, Jordan Mickey, 55.
Yep. James Young stuck around on our summer league team for like 4 years. Yeah. I have no idea. He must have been breaking rulers or something.
We gave him so many opportunities, and I did like James Young. Dude was a phenomenal shooter, but other than that, I remember it was between him and R.J. Hunter. We chose James Young. Oof, boy, neither. I mean, when you look back at it, those two are just such great shooters. But other than that, they really didn't present much.
Yeah, I was so hyped for both of them, but
Yeah.
they just fizzled out, and I never saw them on the roster. So I didn't really even understand it. I was like, why aren't these guys getting minutes? And then when they did, I started to understand.
Yeah, it's funny. Back in 2018, I believe that was the year. We re-signed RJ Hunter to a 10-day contract at the end of the year, and then we never saw him again. So we went from drafting him, playing him. Okay, he disappeared. Few years later, shows back up for 10 days at the end of the year, and then he just absolutely disappears again. So that's a weird player whenever I see him. I know he was in Chicago and all that, but keep going.
And my favorite, I think the best one out of the 10 years was the year that we had Brown and Tatum, hands down, has to be. That was, I want to say, Kadeem Allen was the point guard. I want to say Jabari Bird. I just have the rosters up, and I'm creating the starting five as I look at it. So
Jabari Bird is a big what if. Franco, do you remember when he got in trouble with the law and he got arrested and we traded him to Atlanta and he never played in Atlanta, but he got arrested, something like that. He played really good at the end of the season. The Celtics were gonna probably if he didn't mess up and do whatever, he was gonna be a rotational player. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just Jabari Bird was just such a big what if player. I was so excited for him in the opportunity he had, and he just blew it.
Yep, Del Nader. He stuck around for a while, and then he moved on to Thunder. Who do we get for him? And I remember we got. Was it Al? Did he come back for Al?
No. No, that was a Kemba trade. I don't know. That's a good question because I know he was in Phoenix in 2021. He was on that Phoenix team that went to the finals.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know. He was in Oklahoma City. I'm trying to think who we traded. It might have been.
I remember just sending Abdel Nader to Oklahoma City, and I was like, damn, we got him back. Who was it? I was like, damn, we just fleeced him for Nader. Another name was Ante
Rodney Purvis.
Who was it?
We traded Abdel Nader going to Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Celtics received Rodney Purvis. Purvis did not play. The Celtics will save. Okay, so the Celtics saved a ton of cap space by sending Nader. Maybe that's why.
Oh, that's probably what happened. I remember we signed someone, and Ante Zizic. I remember he went to Cleveland and did well.
Yeah, in the Isaiah Thomas trade, and he did do very well. Zizic was a good center. Couldn't really find his way in Boston, but he had a great opportunity in Cleveland.
And then we keep moving forward to the Robert Williams era of the Summer League, which he had Jabari Bird, Kadeem Allen, Justin Bibbs, Semi Ojeleye, one of our favorites, and Gershon Yabusele.
And then the next year, that was the Taco Fall.
This was the greatest. This is probably number 2. Carson Edwards, Taco Fall, Javonte Green, Romeo Langford, Chinanu Anakwu, Max Strus, Tremont Waters, Grant Williams, Robert Williams, and Gershon Yabusele.
That is an elite team that we lost to in the playoffs to the Memphis Grizzlies.
Oh my God!
I can't believe that team lost.
That was
Did you say we had Onwuka Okongwu?
Yeah. No, Chinanu Onuaku. Okay. I remember he was.
Damn. But still, that team was insane. How did we not win the Summer League title? And I get it. It's like, oh, well, I mean, now we look back at it. But, like, even then, like, those guys were good in the Summer League. I remember watching Grant Williams throwing lobs to Robert Williams. Like, that team was insane. Like Taco Fall.
Romeo Langford, Javonte Green, like
Max Drews.
Oh, like I would be screaming watching this team play today.
Dude, it's so funny how like we're talking about just Summer League teams and we're like, oh, how did we not win?
And then what was the next year? Next year was Aaron Neesmith, Carson Edwards, Johan Belgerin, Peyton Pritchard, Bruno Fernando, Romeo Langford, Yam Madar.
This was a good year. We lost to the championship to Sacramento. We actually got blasted.
Sam Hauser, Carson Edwards, and oh man, yeah. Because then I switched to the next one, which I saw Matt Ryan, which that threw me off. And then the last and final one was last year's Johan Belgerin, J.D. Davison, Robert Franks. A lot of them we're not seeing again. Sam Hauser, Justin Jackson, Mefendo Kabengele, AJ Reeves.
Yeah, we had him. What about Augustine or Augustus or?
Where is he? I think that Jericho Helms and Travion Williams was who I thought was going to make the roster over Kabengele.
I thought Travion Williams was going to make the roster too. I was surprised he didn't.
He was baby Al. That's what I was hot about. Like, that's what I was screaming when I wanted him to get drafted. But I did want J.D. Davison last year, which I was hype about getting. But that was all the past 10 years. And here we are going into the wow. I can't believe this is like my 10-year anniversary of being like a true Celtics fan, I think.
Really? Yeah.
Now, like, looking at the roster, like now it makes sense because like you could be a fan before that, like, but you don't understand it. But this is like my 10-year anniversary of following the team, like hardcore.
I mean, I think it just puts it into perspective of like how fast time flies. Like I think about that all the time. Like when I was watching, like the other day, we were doing this series about I'll post NBA Summer League highlights of players that are currently on the regular roster. And it was crazy to go through. Originally, I had Marcus Smart paired with Robert Williams. But obviously Smart is no longer with us on the roster. But it was just crazy to go back and look and watch Marcus Smart play in the Summer League almost 10 years ago. And watch
bald-headed out of Oklahoma when everyone was saying –
he was a chunky dude back then.
When everyone was saying character issues. Didn't he, like, punch someone? He
punched a fan in the first row behind the basket. I remember that. But look,
I just remember calling him Mini Rondo when Rondo was about to get traded.
Yeah, so like that was a big thing. Also, that was kind of the end of the era and passing the torch and Marcus Smart. But look, we could be talking about the Celtics Summer League roster next year. So let's reminisce. Let's kind of what is that called? Foreshadow. Some really good players here in a successful Las Vegas Summer League. The Celtics and Heat Eastern Conference Finals rematch in Summer League. We'll get to see the young squads go at it tomorrow in Las Vegas at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on NBA TV. NBC Sports Boston should be doing a broadcast of it, maybe not with their own broadcasters, but they should at least be recording.
Streaming it.
Yeah, they should at least. Usually they do. But we should have you covered for Celtics Postgame Live moments after the final buzzer. We'll post the links up on social media. If you're not already following us on social media, go do so. We're on Twitter at Celtics_weekly. We're on Instagram at Celtics Talk Weekly. We're also on Threads, a new app. I love Threads. Franco, have you been on Threads yet or no?
I've downloaded it, but my phone, I have to get a new phone because I'm just in storage wars.
Yeah.
Like completely, any video that I like add to my camera roll, it will not send over to anything.
That's
Or
great.
whenever I download an app, I'm basically down to the phone and text app pretty much on my phone. So, well,
Yeah.
I'm on Thread, so I'm excited to follow up on that.
Good, because we're on Threads. Celtics Talk Weekly's on Threads. We're nearing 1,000 followers on Threads. So if you haven't already, go follow us on all of our social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe. We're going to be covering Celtics post-game shows. We're going to have a lot of podcasts on here. Actually, Rob and I recorded a podcast earlier this week. It should be posted tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. But for now, I'm Justin. That's Franco. We'll catch you guys tomorrow after the Celtics and Heat game in Las Vegas.